Hey everyone, thanks for your patience and thanks for being here. Yeah, welcome. There are some microphones on the tables here. Just want to check if there's no one online yet, so I can't ask anyone if, oh, there's someone. Can you hear us online? Okay. Mark can hear us. That's great news. All right. Well, we've got sound online, so we're going to jump right into getting our meeting started. I'm Sarah. Hello. I hope everybody signed in, got a name tag, enjoyed some dinner, and feel free to take some leftovers at the end of the meeting. Yes. Yeah, we're gonna, I also hope everybody had a chance to introduce themselves to one another. We usually take a little time to go around and introduce everyone, but since we started a little late, we're just gonna jump right in, if that's all right with everyone. The microphones on the table, they do work, you just have to flick them on before you speak into them, and speak clearly, just like this. So our first agenda item is to invite our current steering committee members to stand their positions if they'd like to remain as steering committee members, and to nominate anybody new, which we've got someone in mind. Jane's looking the other way. And if anybody else is interested in joining the steering committee, our main responsibility is obviously attending this meeting tonight, fourth Wednesday of the month, and also attending our planning meeting, which is the first Wednesday of the month, to organize this meeting, where we host the meeting. We also spend our budget for the fiscal year, and any other kind of community organizing that we have the capacity for.
So a minimum time commitment is 3 hours a month. Minimum time commitment is 3 hours a month. What's the minimum?
I would say 4.
There's a lot of emails being exchanged.
Right.
Yeah.
So come stand and
We can invite our steering committee members up here.
and this is one occasion where we have to divide on ward boundaries. So only Ward 4 residents vote for Ward 4 steering committee members, and only Ward 7 voters, Ward 7 attendees, this is why Sarah does this, vote for the Ward 7 steering committee member.
So I guess I'll just start since I now have the microphone. And my name is Sarah Diaz. I'm going to continue to commit to be a steering committee member, and I live in Ward 7. So all in favor of me on the steering committee, say aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Leave room for that. Okay, thank you so much. And Steve?
Okay.
Hand it over.
I'm Stephen Brown, and Ward 7, and I'm a chef. I'm a retired chef, I guess, now, but I love to cook for everyone else now. So me and my wife, Jane, cooked this meal tonight. And I also want to nominate Jane for the steering committee because she's already been serving anyway. Okay, and so she's my executive chef, so I need her because she knows all the numbers and stuff. So for me and for Jane, for Ward 7.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Steve, we should vote for you separately.
Okay,
Yeah, okay. We'll
yeah.
vote for you.
People,
Vote
yeah.
for Steve.
All right.
All in favor? Raise your
For
hand.
Ward 7.
Okay.
And now, okay, how about now for Jane McDonald for Steering Committee Ward 7, okay. Yay.
Anyone opposed? I'm in Ward 4. Anyone? I'm Mark Leopold. I was born in Burlington. I moved away for 20 years, lived in St. Albans, came back, and I've been here for about 20 years. And I'm new to the steering committee as of last August, and I'd like to stand again for another year. So, all in favor? Ward 4. Ward 4. Only Ward 4. Okay, anyone from Ward 4 oppose? Thank you very much.
I'm Annie Lawson. I'm in Ward 4. I'm having trouble remembering when I joined the steering committee, but it's been a little bit, since before August, maybe like March, I'm not sure. But I'd love to stay on the committee. I'm a social worker, I'm a parent, I'm a community member. And so I'll do the vote call if you're in favor of me being on the committee and you're in Ward 4. Thanks. Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you.
I know. I'm Joanne Hunt. I've actually been on the steering committee, me and Sarah, the longest, but not that long, actually. I live in Ward 4. I'm a mostly retired nurse practitioner, but not completely. And I'm just excited to see this many people here tonight. It's very exciting. And because I just think I think community involvement is really important no matter what. All in favor of me staying on the committee?
Any opposed?
Any opposed? Thank you.
Now, we do not have a full steering committee. Sarah,
Well, yeah.
how many openings do we have?
That's a good question, but plenty.
9 members from each ward.
Yeah.
We could be as high as 18 people, which might get a little rowdy, but we're barely
So-
with 3 from each ward.
We're at the
We could use more help.
lower limit of being a valid NPA.
We are valid, though. Everyone's valid.
When you go get a second drink, there's a poster right by the drink. So
Oh.
consider it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did want to take a moment right now to invite anybody to either self-nominate or nominate somebody else to join the steering committee. No pressure.
So you can pressure your friends
Yeah.
and bring them to the next meeting and nominate them.
There's also another thing we were thinking about too, is like, you don't have to be on the steering committee and do all that extra 4 hours, but if you showed up on the night of the NPA to help out beforehand or afterwards, a little bit of help like that would be wonderful too. All the help that's what takes a village, right? And it makes us more of a community, so.
So if you don't want to make decisions, but you want to help, we're looking for volunteers to help.
Jane, I'll let you add one more thing.
Suggest that if we give people a little bit of information about what they'd really be doing on the steering committee. Yeah, because then you know if you want to do it.
Well, yeah, go ahead, talk. What have you been doing since last?
Well, this, obviously we have someone facilitating the meeting. We do take notes. We build an agenda. So I think part of what Joanne was referring to was the communication with our presenters, folks who are reaching out to us as a steering committee, as a collective, to request time to speak on upcoming events or topics that are going on in the city, our councilors, our representatives. We also have the chance to reach out to those folks to invite them to present or speak to, upcoming topics or things that we're maybe hearing our neighbors talk about and want to learn more about, bike lanes and anything that that you're interested or is impacting the community. That's what this space is for. So that's a big part of being on the committee. There's also room for fun. So, we haven't really had the capacity to plan anything other than these monthly meetings. But we usually take the summer off. So July and August, we don't host our monthly meeting. So there's room there for potentially as steering committee members or, other folks to plan other things. So I don't know if anybody else has other things to add.
No, well, let's get to the
I have one little thing to add. I am taking a class called the Vermont Community Leadership class right now at Mercy Connections, and my project is to have an all-boards barbecue. So we're supposed to have a steering committee, citywide steering committee meetings that have not happened. We're going to have one this month, or May. We're having one in May, but I want to have an all-wards barbecue where all the wards get knit together. And I'm a chef. I'm a retired chef. I just want to cook for everybody, as many people as I can. And the kind of people that show up at NPAs, really cool people. So thank you for being here. And if we get all the wards together, doesn't matter where we have it, we knit the city together.
Thank you, Steve. All right. And with that, we'll roll right into our open forum. So a little bit of time for folks to make announcements, just like Steve just did. I see Sylvia has her hand up and Alex. So I'll just invite you both to go ahead and jump into whatever you want to talk about. Go ahead. That sounded on.
Okay, Sylvia Knight from Ward 7. I have 3 handouts on the table over here. Yesterday was Earth Day, and I was down in Montpelier with my group sharing information about pesticides and how they're not really regulated by the state. And PFAS. We know that PFAS now are in pesticides. And if we use a lot of pesticides, some of them are likely to contain PFAS and they'll get distributed around the state. I have a list of the pesticides that are used in Vermont that contain PFAS active ingredients. So that's on the table. I have a list of 3 bills that, on the table, what they're about, who to write to, and what you might comment on. One is about the right to farm law, and that right to farm law mentions pesticides as something, as a practice in agriculture that should be protected against suits. The problem I see is that even if a farmer tries to follow all the rules when he uses pesticides, that does not guarantee that they won't move off-site, drift in the air, or move into the water and harm other people and other species. So I'm not saying that they can't use them, but I'm asking the committees, is this really a practice that should be protected from suits because pesticides can harm other people?
Thank you, Sylvia.
I think that's, so anyway, there's a bill about bans application of biosolids, sludge. So this is on the table,
Yep.
and thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvia. If anybody wants to learn more, like you said, there are flyers up front. Alex, I know you had your hand up. Yep. And then Annie, we'll go to you. Yeah, just make sure to flip that on.
Check. Hey everyone, my name is Alex Melville. I'm in Ward 7, and I'm here to share a little information about bike paths, particularly the bike path that runs along Route 127. So if you go down Ethan Allen Park, go across the bridge, that's where it, I guess, ends if you're coming from Burlington, brings you all the way to the north side of the old North End. And I just want to let you all know that there is something called a scoping study going on right now by the city. And they're looking at really 3 things. They're looking at potentially widening the path in certain areas. And they're looking at just like general safety concerns. Anyone else seen the just fence that's like completely blown down over in the flat region closer to the old North End? If that's a problem, this is a good instance for you to go and talk to someone and have some impact on what happens with that bike path. The third and probably biggest thing about it is that they're considering making a connection in between the North Beach exit. I don't know if you know, but there's like there's a bit of that path that kind of opens up onto the exit ramp, but it's pretty dicey. People know it's dicey, and so they're looking at ways to connect that to North Ave, basically the entrance to the new North End where that exit enters onto New North End. So I have a bunch of flyers. I'm also the kind of representative of Ward 7, Ward 4. So I'll write my email down, and you can message me, and I can try to understand and communicate what you want to say. But you can also just email people directly through this link that's in this QR code right here. And I'll leave these back here. So yeah, summed up, if you care about that bike path and you want to see it improve and you have ideas, this is a really good instance for you to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. Oh, okay. To inform? Okay, but for open forum, we have Annie's going to make an announcement, and then we can go to Carter if they're interested in speaking at our open forum. So go ahead, Annie.
Okay, thanks. One is just a immediate this moment announcement. I believe I'm serving as timekeeper for this meeting, so if I rudely interrupt you, that's my job too. So please forgive me. The second thing is totally unrelated to my role here, and I want to be very clear. I'm speaking now as a community member, not as a steering committee member. So I'm speaking to share an update about a resolution that progressive city councilors are introducing and bringing this coming Monday, the 28th. It is a resolution to support free speech and to free Mahmoud Khalil, Rumesa Öztürk, and Mohsen Madawi. And I haven't been getting this information in spoken word. I'm only seeing it in print, so I may be mispronouncing names. But the Progressive Committee, the Progressive Caucus has made a commitment to giving public notice before they bring a resolution. So I'm, offering support by bringing that here and making people aware of it. And my understanding is that the Progressives have also committed to being in negotiation and collaboration with members of other caucuses. So the full text of this resolution in support of free speech is available online. I can provide it to anybody if they're interested in reading it. My understanding is that there have already been some changes made as negotiations have happened between Progs and Democrats. I know we have a couple Democratic councilors here, so please correct me if I'm mistaken on any of this. And there's also an invitation for community members to sign on to this resolution. The basis for it is just looking at what's happening with the federal administration detaining people based primarily on free speech and criticism of governments. This is unconstitutional, so wanting to show opposition to that by resolution here. And then I'll briefly read a list of folks and organizations who are in support of this. American Federation of State, Municipal, County Employees, Local, Migrant Justice, Vermont Asylum Project, Jewish Voices for Peace, Vermont and New Hampshire, Free Her, UVM Students for Justice in Palestine, Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation, and more. So please contact me if you'd like me to provide full text or the opportunity for you to sign on as a community member. Thanks.
Thank you, Annie. Was Carter interested in speaking at the open forum? Okay, we're all set? Cool. Are there any other open forum folks? Okay, we've got one more announcement. There you go.
Now it's on. Hi, everyone. My name is Jim, Ward 7, and I am a volunteer with and board member of the food pantry. And just want to make an announcement that this Sunday from 10 to 12, we're going to be having a food and clothing drive. So if you have things to donate, please do bring them by during that time. We will help you get them inside and get everything sorted and taken care of. If you're bringing clothing, just one thing, please. We don't have a lot of storage space, so we can't really take winter clothes at this point. But if you have spring, summer, maybe the earliest of fall clothes, we can definitely take those and they will be used. So we appreciate the donations. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's at the Oddfellows Hall on North Ave here, and there's a big sign up front that says donations from 10 to 12 on Sunday. Not typically. We need things that are shelf stable and/or we get fresh food once a week and it goes right out the door. But we have a little bit of capability, but not much. So if you have something specific, maybe we can talk. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jim. And I think we're already a little bit behind, so I was thinking about proposing that we extend our meeting just 10 more minutes so that the presenters have enough time to get their points across. Do I have a second for that? Okay, and we can vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, excellent. Thank you all, and thank you for your patience today. Yeah, all good information. So I'm going to invite up Evan Litwin, who is our Ward 7 City Councilor, to present. Should be able to get it on the screen for you. And there's a fresh mic for you.
Scoot out of the way. Got it. Sit. I'm good at following directions. So thanks so much. For folks who haven't met me, my name's Evan Litwin. He, him, or they, them pronouns are great for me, and I live in Ward 7, and I'm your Ward 7 City Councilor. Also, we left these at the table. I just made a new little flyer, hopefully you'll all take, that just has all your city councilors, the committees we sit on, how to contact us, and a few QR codes for how to be involved. And it was a really great segue thinking about what Steve was talking about unifying the community and coming together, and then what Annie was talking about, a lot of the issues that are impacting our community that are trickle down and trickle up. And so I have a little PowerPoint for you that's gonna come, but it's sort of my 1-year review. I'm 1 year in. Thank you for trusting me as your representative. And I don't know if you're able to. Excellent, thank you. We're a ragtag bunch, but we get through. So you could, I just wanted to quickly talk about standing committees and commissions. What do they do? How do you get involved? I know there's some folks in the room, Sal, who has attended, and Bernie, who have attended committee meetings and reflected about the impact that they have when people are able to attend them. And so if you go to the next slide, these are all the committees that you could serve on, or commissions. And so there's a lot of openings that are about to come up. There's vacancies. It's in my email signature. It's on the flyer. And you're paid, you're compensated $50 a meeting if you're appointed to these. These are all generally appointed by us, the City Council. And we really look to all of you to help us guide the city and guide our community to and handle the work, because it really does, as Steve said, take a village. We could not, as councilors, handle all this by any means. And there's all sorts of information online about what do each of these commissions do. And so I don't have time tonight to go into this in great depth, but I'm always happy to talk to anybody about committee and commission openings, because I want to see people involved. And these are all open to the public as well. So if you just want to attend any of these, you can. And if you go to the next one, these are all the committees that city councilors are assigned to by the city council president. And so all of these, again, are open meetings. We serve on 3, if not 4, committees on top of our regular city council work. And this, again, is where a lot of governance happens, a really big portion of it. And one of the things I think, I'm reading Slow Democracy right now, and one of the things I think about is how frustrating it must be to come to the city council meeting and only have 2 minutes to speak about something that you clearly deeply care about. And a lot of the times it's already gone through a very lengthy public process, but in a committee that had maybe very little public attendance. And often only attended by people who really are paying attention to really specific issues. But you can really impact the policy at this stage probably most effectively, in my opinion. And so I hope that you will answer my call tonight, which is a challenge that I will issue you all, which is to kind of look this up and go to the next slide. Actually, that might help. And learn a little bit about Civic Clerk. If you haven't, go to our Civic Clerk website and you can look at my flyer. And this is where we publish all our meetings, our agendas, our NPA agenda is there. But what I wanted to alert people to is that you can set up alerts so that you get an email when any of these committees post an agenda, so that you don't have to wonder, oh, gee, are they putting up a big building next to me and now they've already issued the permits and everything and there was a process and I didn't know about it because I wasn't paying attention to the planning commission or the, you know, that happens a lot. And there were examples where the statue outside of IAA, which was a big issue, right? And there was a process, but just a lot of folks weren't aware about it, and then they had to redo the process. So pick a committee or to follow, and you know, these folks meet once a month, usually, sometimes twice. And if there's something on the agenda that appeals to you, that makes you curious, attend. Most of these are virtual option, and so you don't have to be able to physically go there. And any committee that I serve on, I try to make sure that we are scheduled for the evening to make it accessible for folks. But I don't think every committee does that. So that's your challenge. If you leave here, pick something. Maybe it's public safety. Maybe it's the walk bike group that we heard about tonight. And I ask you to all be involved. This is the time that we all need to come together and steer our city together. So next slide, please. Okay, so these are my committee assignments. We all shift around sometimes. This past year, I served on a few committees. One really I just covered since Councilor Doherty was appointed to a judgeship. And now I will be on charter change. I will continue to be on CDNR, which is Community Development and Neighborhood Revitalization. You'll hear from my colleague Carter Newbezer tonight, who is also on that with me. And I'll be on tax abatement. Woo! So if you're excited about tax abatement, and you can go to the next one. And so the way I approach my constituent engagement is I try to prioritize Ward 7 particularly, but also New North End residents, because there are so many people contacting us. But if you're contacting me throughout the city because of a committee that I serve on, then of course I'm trying to respond to everybody across the city. But my priority is to you, so I will call you back, I will email you back. Sometimes it takes a few days, but I do get there. And then here are 4 resolutions that I proposed this year and passed. They're all at various stages still. Some may go somewhere, some may not go somewhere. We've got some legislators here who know what that business is like. The first resolution I wrote was the establishment of a downtown public safety hub. It was my attempt at responding to some of the concerns that both the business community as well as the New North End community have about safety in and around the Church Street marketplace. And I think we're seeing the effects of that. Grocery receipts are down. We continue to hear that people have varying degrees of feeling of safety downtown. Some people feel very safe, some people don't feel safe at all. I think most people are somewhere in between. And that is currently with the Public Safety Committee for evaluation. And that was passed, I think, 10-2. Evaluation improvement of syringe exchange programs and specifically sort of addressing syringe litter. Again, another big issue that folks have come to me about. I work in public health. I'm very mindful about the importance of a public health approach as well as a whole community's approach to public health. So what I've asked is for the Board of Health to really help us. And so that's something that regular residents can get appointed to. And we have epidemiologists and other great folks who are volunteering on that committee. And we've asked them, can you review certain things? Can you give us recommendations? Can you give us an analysis? And that will come back to the City Council. Actually, it's coming back at the next meeting. And then in May sometime, we will dive into it with a presentation. But their report will be available on the next consent agenda. I'll kind of jump ahead because of time, but I've also, and most of these things are kind of stuck right now in committee, so we'll jump ahead and move on. But I'm working on your behalf. A little bit about sort of me and where I think the feedback that I get, but also how I've approached our work this year. I have had a strong support for first responders, particularly, and I did vote to raise the police cap. I also wrote the amending language to require BPD to explore and enact incentives for young Burlingtonians, BIPOC folks, and new American folks to be recruited. I want our police force to look like our community looks, and I want those folks to receive the same type of support and incentive to join our police force. We are currently on track to maybe fill those positions by 2045. So the more we can do to recruit, in my opinion, and give Burlington youth and other folks with language abilities and other lived experiences, opportunities, the better. We started Councilors in the Parks. We hope you'll come again this summer. Me, Councilor Carpenter, and Councilor Barlow, we sat around at a picnic table with some popsicles at different parks in the New North End, and it's an opportunity to hang out, bring your kids, bring your dogs, well-behaved and leashed dogs, of course. And lastly, I would just say Plattsburgh Avenue, Beltline, I hear a lot. I get a lot of emails, phone calls, text messages. We had a terrible accident that affected a member of our community and his family. The mayor is aware, the mayor is on it. I think we all care about the Beltline safety and improving that. And so Councilor Barlow definitely wants to keep that going on the TUC committee, he told me. And I will continue to watch Plattsburgh Avenue. We've had 2 horrible car accidents there just since I started, where cars go off the road and into people's lawns and houses. So we clearly need to do something about that. And we'll just skip ahead for time. And then a few more highlights. So we've called for a budget neutral year in the Democratic caucus. I believe that your generosity of passing the bonds that we just passed, which was another $180 million on top of the high school bond, which is coming online this July on your tax payments, that we are bonded to the hilt, as they say, and we're gonna have to make hard decisions this fiscal budget year that are decisions that I don't necessarily feel comfortable making. I don't necessarily wanna make that decision. I wanna provide more services to folks, but we may not be able to. And so I'm encouraging you, all of us, to be paying attention to the budget process this May, which I have a slide about. I have personally asked for us to go further than budget neutrality because of that. So I know that there are many folks in Ward 7 who are struggling to stay on top of their taxes and stay in their homes, especially on a fixed income. Unfortunately, I have had to support folks from the NNE who have been victims of violent crime and other crimes. So if you, hopefully, you will never have to experience that, but I want you to know you can come to me, you can call me, you can email me, and I will help in any way that I can, and I will stay with you through that process, because it's stressful and scary. And let's see here, responsive to Miller Center. We're in the Miller Center. There have been some safety concerns, and that kind of remains ongoing, and there's an ongoing review about the Miller Center being used as an emergency shelter. I think if we can get to a place that makes sense and it works, great. But we do need to think about the realities of this as a multi-use space that also has a childcare center and has a lot of kind of impacts from different angles, and just make sure that we have a great protocol in place, that things are safe, that people feel like the Miller Center is safe and accessible for everyone. I strongly supported COTS, getting the old Social Security building, which is now a 30-bed shelter. So that's on Pearl Street for folks who aren't familiar. And I've toured that, and it's beautiful, and they're doing a great job. And that is a low barrier shelter. And I will say I continue to be opposed to camping in the urban reserve along the bike path and the skate park. I realize that we are facing a situation around houselessness that is only getting worse, and our governor is not helping to the degree that I think he should and could. That being said, I think that that particular spot deserves our attention. It was never the intention of the urban reserve to be used for camping, and so we need to continue to evaluate the land use policy there and make sure that it's safe for everyone, including the folks who are unhoused. I'm always happy to take questions. We won't have time tonight, but I'm always happy to take questions about that. And I see my time person. Okay. Let's move on. I'll try to fly through this then. We have a few things coming up. One thing is I am working on something called BTV Thanks, where we're thanking the Burlington firefighters on International Firefighter Appreciation Day on May 4th, which is the day after Green Up Day. So it's like a big weekend. And that's like a community cookout kind of approach. So if you're interested in volunteering with that, we're gonna need some help. We're doing it at 3 different firehouses if it gets approved financially, which I think it will. I am also working on a tax fairness resolution so folks do not get penalized when they make accommodations to their homes when they become disabled or are disabled, so that they do not have a tax increase on their property from city taxes. And all of this comes from people contacting me and telling me their stories. So if you have something going on, reach out to me, because I wouldn't have known that that was happening to somebody. I am working on, again, somebody came to me with a situation about $200 being held out of their debit card account at a gas station. And that is a common policy at gas stations. So we want to have consumer disclosure at gas stations in Burlington that tell you at the pump that this might happen, so that you can make an informed decision. And then I am working on it. It is in the early stages of looking at a 5% increase on gross receipts tax of consumed alcohol to help offset costs to first responders. Our police and fire is 38% of our city budget. So I think we need, in this environment, to look at how can we reduce that without reducing their capacity. And I'll stop there because of the time, but my full presentation is online, or we'll make it available on the Civic Clerk website, which we've all been challenged to go to. So thank you, and if there's anything coming up for you, I am available by phone, email. I take dog walks. I will come to your neighborhood barbecue, whatever you want. So thank you so much for the time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you, and yeah, since we didn't have time for questions, as Evan said, he's super available. And we're gonna jump right into our next presentation, which Jonathan is already on his way up. Jonathan Chappell Sokol will be joined by Councilor Newbeiser online. So yeah, just make sure that microphone is on, and I'll leave it to y'all.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Chappell Sokol. I'm on the Ward 1 Steering Committee, NPA Steering Committee, and Carter is right there.
Hey, y'all. Sorry to have to join remote. I'm visiting family for my mother's birthday. Surprised her this morning with the kids, but Carter Newbeiser, Ward 1 City Councilor, and grateful for the time. Excited to be here.
And Shani, do you have the slides that Carter sent? Carter, you want to start with the slides?
Yeah, that'd be great. Shawnee, are you able to put those up, or I don't know if I can share. Perfect. Perfect. Do you want to just hit the slideshow version? And sorry if you're speaking, Shawnee, I just can't hear you. So you may already be on this. Okay, perfect. Well, like Jonathan said, his name is Jonathan. My name's Carter. We're presenting today on a resolution related to the relationship between the city council and the neighborhood planning assemblies. And so naturally, we wanted to make sure, and we're doing a tour around the city of the neighborhood planning assemblies. Over the next 20 or 30 minutes, Jonathan and I are hoping to talk about what the resolution does, how the resolution came about, and a little bit of quick history on the NPAs, why it's needed, and sort of the direct problem we think it addresses, and then specifically walk through what the sort of practical implications are. We'll have a period for Q&A in case questions come up or folks are curious about different pieces of it at the end. So please write your questions and hold them to the end if that's all right. And then at the very end, our sort of ask to the 4-7 NPA, which is the ask to every NPA, is to sort of vote up or down, affirming that you're supportive of this or not supportive of this. And our hope is that all the NPAs will vote to sort of affirm their support for it and then introduce this to the council after that. So starting, and I think you could go the first slide, Shawnee. Sorry, yeah, there's what I just said. Next slide. So starting with just very quickly what the resolution does. In short, it's a move to articulate and also formalize the relationship between the NPAs and city government. So really the goal is to have clear and realistic expectations between both entities, because I think on a variety of issues over the years, as long as I've been involved in Burlington, local issues, there's been misunderstandings between various parts of the city and NPAs. And so we want to make sure that that's clarified and we sort of have a level set. We want to make sure that we're creating a shared understanding between us, and ultimately that will produce hopefully a more enjoyable and productive environment so that we can have conversations. As Councilor Litwin was saying, there's some big decisions ahead of the city in the years to come, and we've got to be able to work together as neighbors to address those. And I think we can go to the next slide. So very quickly, I'm just going to speak to, and then I'll pass it to Jonathan, the history and sort of the characteristics of the NPA. So way back when the city council established the NPAs in the 1980s, they were really intended to be open and accessible to every city resident. All voters in a particular ward is how they were first worded in the resolution. They are supported, and sort of the office tasked with organizing the NPAs is CEDO, Community Economic Development Office, for folks not familiar with it. And as you all know, each NPA develops its own bylaws. Anybody who lives in that area, ward, or wards can vote and participate in the NPAs. And really the intent over the years has slightly shifted, but ultimately the spirit of it is a form of direct democracy where elected officials in different parts of city government and the bureaucracy, city council, the mayor's office, et cetera, can hear directly from folks in the community so that we are making decisions that are reflective of what is important to folks. And I'll pass it to you, Jonathan, from there.
Okay, thanks. I think, so I haven't been on the NPA for that long, but I did join before COVID. But I think what those of us who have been on for several years have seen is that there are some things that happen where the NPAs expect more from the city than we get. And I think there are some things that have happened where the city has expected more from the NPAs than they get. And what became clear is that there really isn't any definition or document articulating this relationship beyond some very simple stuff like CEDO's involved. And then there's a lot of very general language in the establishing resolution talking about what the NPAs were established for. It doesn't necessarily talk about how you get it. And actually, I want to hand this out. There's only 15 copies. This is the document we're talking about tonight. But so if you can just kind of spread them out, it would be great. So folks from the steering committee in Ward 1 and folks from the steering committee in Ward 5 got together, and we called it a resolution, but it was really just a statement that we wanted to present to City Council, saying that we really wanted to try to define this relationship better than it had been defined. We brought it to City Council, and you may remember, I think it came to every single NPA and was voted on. It was about a year ago. And I think we had consensus among all the NPAs, at which point we brought it to the City Council and just in our 2-minute time at the beginning of a meeting, read the resolution. And that can be posted in the minutes, with this meeting. We have it. And what City Council did was basically create a resolution, pass it to the CDNR, the Community Development and Neighborhood Revitalization Subcommittee. And they formed a working group, and that working group was comprised of members of CEDO, members of the City Attorney's Office, City Councilor Carter, and 3 members of the NPA steering committees. And they were picked literally out of a hat by people who were interested in doing it. So there was a Ward 5, a Ward 3, and a Ward 1 representative on this committee. And we met a lot over the past year. And now what we want to do is take the work product and share it with all the NPAs. And as Carter said, we're hoping that that this can be approved, that you may not like all the words in it, but if you like most of them, we kind of hope you can say yes so that we can move forward. And then we can take a second round of this. I mean, this could be a living document, basically. But we don't necessarily want to wordsmith 8 times, one for every ward. And we're hoping by June to have gone to all the NPAs and getting feedback or getting a vote. I think that's back to you, Carter. This is like a high school oral report. We're sharing it.
I know, I feel very official. I was working on the slides. I got the flag image on there. It's great. Shine, do you mind just hitting to the next slide? Just really quick, these are, some of the MPAs are scheduled. Today is April 23rd, so we're speaking of 4/7. But these are the different dates that we have scheduled. Wards 2 and Ward 8, unless I haven't checked my email in the last couple of days. We're still scheduling, and I think Ward 3 will be around June, that we'll be able to talk to them. So next slide. So Jonathan spoke to this, and this one might be duplicative, but I think one question that could come up is, couldn't we just kind of keep the relationship going as is? Like, why do we really need this? And again, we could just keep doing what we're doing, but I think we're going to continue to risk misunderstandings between the various MPAs and various parts of city government, including the council. And again, we want to create that shared understanding because I think we're in a moment taking it very high level, in a moment in our country that we need to show that the democratic process is important and can be functional and effective. And I think we have an opportunity locally to sort of prove out a case study on that. And so, Jonathan, I'm going right back to you to talk about what it does. And
okay, so it's probably the next slide. So if you can see a copy of the resolution, then great. But we're going to kind of go through it step by step, and it's divided into four parts. It's what the NPA, it's affirmations by the MPAs. It's what the responsibility of CEDO is, and then then there's like the guttas and the ottas for the city and the city council. Okay, so I'll start by talking about what the NPAs affirm. That NPAs are essential to the civic health of our community. NPAs shall be open and accessible to all city residents and shall abide by the open meeting law. NPAs in the original document, it says the NPAs shall adhere to federal, state, and local laws regarding anti-discrimination, free speech, and accessibility. When this if everybody agrees, we think we're going to strike the word federal, because we just don't know what federal laws are going to be passed. But in terms of equity and fairness, they're all in state and local laws. Everything that we need to do is in state and local laws. NPAs shall adhere to the provisions of their bylaws, and decisions shall be made in a transparent manner. NPA shall expend funds allocated to them by the City Council in a manner consistent with the city's terms, conditions, and restrictions. And NPA shall set terms and conditions for the gatherings and shall determine their agendas and priorities. So that's independence. Now, this for CEDO, where does CEDO get involved? The first thing is kind of a new thing, and what CEDO will do is develop a standardized process in collaboration with the NPAs by which each NPA can communicate a list of annual priorities to City Council and City Administration. So I bet each one of you has something in mind. I can tell you what people in Ward 1 think about. People in Ward 1 think about the university and the medical center, and anything that has to do with an agreement between the city and the university is dear to our heart, and we would be offended if the City Council voted on one of those things without coming to the NPA for consultation. So it's items like that. It's like big deal items that are very important to each ward. And we want to develop a process by which those can be communicated annually, so you can update it, you can refresh it to City Council. And that would set the expectation at City Council that there are certain things that need to be slowed down on, at least for specific wards.
And just not to interrupt you, Jonathan, but just one piece to just add there is going back to sort of establishing a realistic expectation. City staff cannot be expected, and I don't think it's realistic, or MPAs have to. I was on the Ward 1 MPA steering committee for a couple of years, and I know from my experience there, we don't have time to talk about everything and every decision. But if there's at least a short list, both myself as a city councilor and then different folks within city government can at least make a good faith attempt. And so we're going to get it right sometimes, we're going to get it wrong sometimes, but this is hopefully starting that ball rolling and building that muscle. Sorry, Jonathan, go for it.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. And I see I'm looking at the screen. I can stand and look at the screen instead of at my page. The next thing CEDO will do is consult with other relevant city staff to develop easily understood materials that outline the legal requirements of NPAs. So that's to help NPAs do things that meet what they said in the NPAs shall do section. CEDO will consult with other relevant city staff to review and update these materials as needed, but no less than every 3 calendar years. So this is just saying that CEDO really needs to take as part of their assignment to make sure that things are current and that NPAs are educated. Collaborate with NPAs and other relevant city staff to ensure NPAs understand the legal requirements. So it's review them and teach, and finally include a representative chosen by the NPAs to serve on hiring committees for staff roles predominantly focused on supporting and liaising with the NPAs. So again, this is another new opportunity and responsibility for the NPAs. Next slide. So now it's to you, Carter.
Yeah, and this is sort of a couple values, because going through the process, we heard about different instances of sort of a breakdown of communication or trust. And so going back to sort of level setting between the City Council and the NPAs, this part is talking about the City Council will acknowledge and agree that the NPAs play an important role, that they're vital to the democratic process locally, that the advice that we receive at NPAs is important, it's valuable. I really value the Ward 1 MPA. I feel like it keeps me grounded, and I'm often, there's like, I always say there's a lot of really smart folks in Burlington, and so often I'm sort of getting ideas or new perspectives or thinking about a detail on something I'm working on that I just don't have the background or experience for, and someone in the room does. And then finally, that city councilors, again, we can't compel elected official to do anything, of course, but it's saying that we as a body encourage all of the members to regularly attend their MPAs respectively in the ward or district that they're in. We can go to the next slide. And then this is a list of sort of what we're hoping that the city council as a body and us as individual members will work in good faith to consult with NPAs on. So issues, as Jonathan spoke to, issues that impact NPA governance and structure before proceeding with resolutions and ordinances. So this is an example. This resolution we're presenting is an example of that. And so we wanted to make sure as starting that process, we came and discussed it with every NPA. Issues that disproportionately impact a particular area of the city. So as Jonathan spoke to, Ward 1, at least, we've always want to hear about the Med Center and UVM related issues. We also, if there's a change to Szymanska Park, like we want to hear about that, and other people in the city may be interested in those things as well. But maybe it's less relevant to Ward 4, right? And maybe a park in Ward 4 is more relevant, etc. Next one was matters identified by the NPAs as priorities. So part of establishing this collaborative process where we can have an understanding for city staff. All development projects that require major impact review. This is already the case. There's a small loophole, and the reason we are reaffirming this is one, just to be diligent, but two, it's always been our functional understanding in Ward 1 that this was already the case. It was a requirement, but it's actually just a public meeting. And so we had an instance of someone holding a public meeting where they put up a couple signs around town and said, we're holding this public meeting, and never actually came to the NPA, but they technically sort of crossed the T's and dotted the I's. So we wanted to make sure that was clear. Redistricting and changes to ward and boundaries and polling places. We have an existing process by which I believe NPAs have sent, certainly wards have sent representatives, but that input has not always translated into where we land. And I think that's sort of an important, hopefully nonpartisan process that ought to have a lot of citizen review and engagement in, because it's so central to our democracy. And then finally, any proposed charter changes and ballot questions. Again, a lot of this is, a version of this happens already, but it's wanting to state that clearly, right? When these 3 bond items came down, at least in Ward 1, the mayor and her team came around and sort of spoke to those with folks before town meeting day. So with that, I will ask for the next slide.
And I think we technically have like 4 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, 4 minutes. So yeah, we wanted to open for questions. We also want to stay within time here. But our hope is that we can answer any questions and then ask you all at some point to take a vote.
Hello. Hi, I'm Jane McDonald, Ward 7. I had a question as to the budget constraints and having to cut the city budget. Is that going to impact the monies that we get to each NPA ward?
I think you might have to ask your city councilors. Yeah.
I had a whole slide about the budget. It's on.
Ask anybody, but I've been wondering, are we going to be affected? I don't know, but I will tell you. This is important to understand. The budget in your city is the mayor's budget. The mayor is budget.
It should be lit up.
The mayor proposes the budget, and you will respond with starting next week. So honestly, I don't know what's in that line item, but that, and we will take that back and we will know, but that's sort of how the budget works. And then the finance committee reviews much more granular, but we don't propose the budget, we respond to the budget.
Yep. And just for time, is there any other questions?
Oh, sorry.
I have a question. I'll talk a little softer into this mic. The question, being on the steering committee, there's an issue with our Ward 47 regarding bylaws. It wasn't actually passed. Why does each ward have separate bylaws? Why aren't there standard bylaws for all the wards?
I think I can answer that by saying that it's just independence. That you may want up to 18 people on your steering committee, whatever the number was you said at the beginning. It was a big number. Ward 1 says a limit of 7. And we didn't change that when we got divorced from Ward 8. We just thought that was a manageable number for us. So it's things like that that we think are different. There are going to be things that are going to be quite common among them. And I think if you read through them, you see that there's commonalities. But it's because, states' rights, whatever, that every ward might have a different feeling about how they want to run their meetings.
Well, and really quickly too, part of the other part of it is, like when I joined my NPA my first year on the steering committee, I had no idea how open meeting law, whether that was a requirement, how that interacted with the Ward 1 NPA, sort of what responsibilities as a steering committee member I had. I sort of learned about this as I was elected to the council. And so I guess the education piece from CEDO is really to understand what are the must-haves, like legally, what we're required to do, and then where is sort of the independence come in, where folks can determine for themselves what works best for their particular ward or district.
I'm Steve. I'm on the steering committee for Ward 7, Stephen Brown. And I think I got an email from one of you guys about the steering committee citywide meeting. And I think that was really cool. And I would like to cook for the whole city, an all wards barbecue at some point. I think that the wards do need to be knit together. And when we know each other better, the city will get along better. So
I'll definitely bring that back to the Ward 1 steering committee for sure. So is there a chance that we could get a vote on this, or 2 votes if you have 2 wards?
So I do think there needs to be more process to this a little bit, that there are some things here that is from the perspective of a counselor, maybe need a little more thought. Everything else really looks to me exactly what we're already doing. And again, to your point, makes a lot of sense. But sometimes it's not, there just isn't enough time to turn around to to wait for the NPA schedule for each NPA or anything to be reactive to an issue. And maybe Councilor Carpenter can speak more eloquently to this. And then additionally, we need to have more conversation about what do we mean by issues that disproportionately impact a particular area of the city. That needs to be thought, that is very vague, and we need to think about how do we determine what that is. And additionally, matters identified by the NPAs as priorities for the current fiscal year, again, I think there needs to be more conversation about what that is. As far as the different NPAs, they've all split up. We're the last remaining NPA where we're working well as Ward 4 and Ward 7, so that's a lot of NPAs for folks to get to that get scheduled kind of all over. You're right, everybody has very different bylaws over the years. And I think traditionally, at least as far as Ward 4 and 7 go, our counselors have come to every possible NPA that they can, both when I was not a counselor and when I was a counselor. We do not always get time on the agenda. And so I'll just give an example.
Evan, sorry, I just want to.
Yep.
You're welcome to vote however you want. Jonathan did mention we weren't getting too nitpicky in terms of talking about the language in this. It's a living document. I don't know if you wanted to word the vote in a way that welcomes that as well, so that we have a chance for people to get their vote in about this drafts moving forward or not from our ward. But so that we can continue the meeting. I know you had a lot of time on the microphone and you have strong opinions, which I appreciate. And I know your presence here you're here quite often. But just wanted to kind of make sure that we do stay on topic and move through.
Well, just
this
really quick
particular presentation.
I don't want to jump in, but really quick to Councilor Litwin's point, because I think those are two of the meatier topics that we tried to tackle as a committee. A few things. One, from a process perspective, we've been talking about this for a year through committee. and CETO, there's been some conversation around sort of staff capacity and is this able to be implemented? And so that's why we wanted a member of CETO. Jillian, who helps oversees the NPA program, has helped us write this and feels confident in their ability. But again, like a very legitimate concern, and want to make sure we're not overburdening staff. The language around what priority issues is intentionally vague. We didn't get into a laundry list because we want the NPAs and CETO, and really Shawnee's position in part, to have that conversation. So to think through what is a standardized process by which you can have that conversation, rather than, like we started listing out like Ward 3 wants to talk about parking every time, and we want to talk about UVM Med Center, and it would just get sort of too unwieldy, I think. So we wanted to allow the NPAs to have that conversation, I guess was the intent.
If I can just make one more comment about the process. Our goal was to come to the NPAs and look for agreement at the NPAs. And then I think this returns to CDNR. It's not like it's passed. So if there are objections when it comes back to CDNR, take it. We'll go. It's a Community Development and Neighborhood Revitalization Subcommittee of the City Council. So it comes back to CDNR. CDNR can do with it what they will. We can cycle around, but we got to start. We had to start somewhere, and that's why we thought starting with the NPAs at least gives voice to the NPAs. And I know we're getting really late.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know if we want to vote or if we maybe don't, if that's okay with you guys. I think there's right. There's room to have a preliminary vote. People are also welcome to abstain. And so
well, the motion would be to accept this resolution and move it back to CDNR. As an NPA, do you agree with this resolution? The motion is, do you agree with this resolution substantively?
Steering committee make that motion?
I'm Steve from Ward 7, and I will make the motion for Ward 7. Someone from Ward 4 can do Ward 4. Second from Ward 7.
I make a motion for move this along. Second.
okay, so now
Please see Captain Reed so I can put two names in the notes.
yeah. So now folks in Ward 7, all in favor of moving this to CDNR, please raise your hand. CDNR. Community Development Neighborhood Revitalization. Okay, that's 14. Is that a yes? That's 15, myself. All opposed from Ward 7. Any abstain? We've got 4 abstaining. Or 5 abstains? 5 abstains. And so now for folks in Ward 4, all in favor of moving this ahead? Okay, that's 8 in favor and all opposed. And abstain. Okay, that's none opposed and none abstained. So they have passed for Ward 7 and Ward 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us, Carter. Happy birthday to your mom.
Thank you. I have to run. I hate when people dip in and out because I love the NPA so much, but I do have to run.
Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for still being here and for voting. I'm going to invite our representative, Abbey Duke, to give us some updates from the Statehouse. Oh, and love that. The more community, the better. 2 chairs, we'll get you 2 microphones, and we'll tag team this update. Just make sure that's on.
this on? I can't tell. It is on? Oh, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Abbey Duke. I am the representative from Chittenden 17, which is southern New North End and Cambrian Rise. Also includes the western Old North End. And
I'm Carol Odie, and I'm Carol Odie. Oh, okay.
we are friends.
Just use one, okay. I'm Carol Odie, and I am one of the two representatives from Chittenden 18, which is from the shopping center north to the mouth of the river, and then basically on this side of the avenue, Ethan Allen, up to the mouth of the river. There's some that's not, but anyway.
All right, I'm going to just do a level set. And then I'm going to do a little intro, talk about each of us roles a little bit, and then we'll kind of leave it open for questions and see what you all want to talk about, because there's so many issues, right? So there's 150 representatives in the House, and there's 14 committees. Most committees have 11 people. So what ends up happening is you know a lot, like a lot of details about the things that your committee is working on, and not as much necessarily about the things that other committees are working on. I mean, you learn a lot, right? So I'm on the Committee of Commerce and Economic Development. So we work on issues dealing with economic development, workforce development, consumer protection, banking, insurance. Ask me about captive insurance if you want to know anything. I know a lot. And we're also involved in working on career and technical education. So I'm just going to start there. You want me to keep going? Okay, I'll keep going. Carol's on Ways and Means, so she knows a lot about taxes and money. So throw out issues. Are there any specific issues people want to talk about, or I can just start talking? Okay. So I'll talk about what we're working on that is important to me and my committee. So number one, there's sort of as we're working on all of our issues, there's the elephant in the room, which is that there's all this terrible stuff coming from Washington and coming from the federal government, and we're trying to prepare for that. So on my committee, we're particularly interested in how is this going to affect our businesses. We had a joint hearing with the Senate Economic Development Committee about tariffs. Of course, the news changed the next day, but but really hearing from our business community about how are tariffs going to affect them, what are the really key issues, and how can we prepare for that, help prepare for that. We also had a joint hearing about tourism, specifically about the impact of reduction of tourism from Canada, which is going to be really significant. It's going to be significant in Burlington. So trying to understand that, and also try to show our appreciation and support of Canada. So we've had Canadian officials in, we've, hearing from them, talking to them about what can we do to help with that situation. I know that I talked to somebody from our Appropriations Committee today who they're spending a lot of time right now hearing from different departments and getting a lot of testimony, trying to understand and trying to help make sure that they're prepared for unknown cuts that could come from the federal government. There's so much unknowns. In the Statehouse, we don't know that much more than everybody else does. I don't think the administration knows necessarily that much more than everybody else does. So I'll say those things as level setting. A few things that we're excited about that we're working on, other than, sort of outside of trying to prepare for what's happening from the federal government, is my committee right now is spending a lot of time on part of a housing bill that would create a new project-based tax increment financing to help build infrastructure around the state. Very excited. It's looking very promising. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in that housing bill as well. We're also working on an economic development bill that is focused on supporting our small businesses. 93% of our small businesses in the state have fewer than 20 employees. And so there's some small expenditures that could have some big impact to help those small businesses. Education reform, we should probably talk about education reform. That's the elephant in the room, right? So I'm going to hand that over to Carol. You want to talk about education reform? Okay. I'll do the overview. So the House passed a bill, a big bill, that has two big pieces to it. One is about education governance reform, and the other piece is about taxes, right? So, and how we fund, not necessarily taxes, how we fund education. So the reform piece is, I mean, all of it is really, the House, I think, the Education Committee, we did a lot of work on the technical education side, Ways and Means did a lot of work on the governance side, and tried to look at realistically, how are we going to go from sort of our current state of education to what I like to think of as the future state, which is, it is very difficult to reform such a large system. So the House bill tries to take really look at that, how complicated it is, how much work it's going to take, and put in a process of basically a 5-year process, 4 to 5 year process from where we are now to when we're done with the education reform. That passed, and that is now in the Senate, and the Senate is working on it. So we'll see where that comes. But what it means for Burlington is we're not sure as far as the governance side. The House says we should have school. Right now, the state has 119 school districts, 119, and 83,000 school kids. So just do that math. That's not very many per school district. 40 years ago, we had 120,000 kids in school. So this is the situation we're in. We're in a demographic in which the number of school children is decreasing, the cost of education is going up, and so this is, one way to think of this is sort of right-sizing our system. So the House has said, the research shows 4,000 students is about right for a school district. And actually, Burlington is not much smaller. Burlington is 3,500 students, maybe. Could be that the Burlington system stays very much like it is. But there's politically, there's a lot of consternation in rural Vermont in particular, wondering what is going to happen. Places where, where either they're tuitioning their students to private schools or they have very small schools. So that's kind of the political landscape of it. Any questions on that? I'm going to pass it to Carol. It's big. These are big, complicated issues.
So that, yes.
I know it's a little late in the process here, but I'm super disappointed that you're not looking to changing to an income tax instead of property tax. And I don't think that the voters asked you to upend the system, but to change how we pay for the system. I don't think there's any people saying that the system was bad. And the fact of trying to make districts of 4,000 people or 4,000 students is going to be extraordinarily disruptive for those students, especially in the small areas. South Burlington has problems with busing right now, where they sometimes have families get messages, we don't have a bus today. There's no way that busing kids hours and hours is going to make this a better system. I'm super disappointed in the changes. I don't really have a question. I just wish you were exploring different taxing systems instead of changing the system.
I think basically the idea is we're happy with our schools. We do not want children on buses for hours. We would like to change maybe the way we're taxing rather than the whole way that schools are configured. Is that right? Okay. Well, I can say on the busing and how long kids have to be on buses, there is a study committee that's set up with 3 superintendents. Well, the House has asked for 3 superintendents and 3 school business managers, all 6 of whom will be retired, to take a good look at exactly where the schools are, where the children are, where the geographical features are that would prevent passage from one place to another because there's a mountain range in the way, or you can't easily get there on the roads, and see how long students actually might have to be on buses and so forth. Children in South Burlington some are on a bus in elementary school for 45 minutes. You know, that will be all considered by these 6 individuals, and maybe they've added a few more legislative appointees. Yeah, but right now that governance piece is being discussed with the Senate and the governor to come to some agreement between them, I guess. And they have what we've proposed, and we really just don't know what's going to happen. But but that's the governance side, and on the financial side, the governor's asked for a foundation formula. Well, years ago, the state hired Tammy Colby, who's a professor at UVM, and she and a professor from Rutgers looked at the way students are treated around the state and came up with a formula that took into account that not all students need the same amount of money to fund their education. So if you had, for example, a student with limited English proficiency, while they are getting up to a good English proficiency, more resources are needed by that school system. And that would be the same idea for students who are special education and so forth, and students in poverty. So we call those the weights. And we were able to make great progress on the weights, which is one of the reasons that your school budget that was proposed this year went down by the proposed spending tax rate will go down 5% with the budget that you just voted. So whatever you were spending on your taxes goes down 5%. That's because of those weights being instituted finally this year. So those weights would be carried over into any new foundation formula as far as we in Burlington are concerned, for sure, and we're hoping that that continues. And then there will be, the idea is that there will be a foundation amount that each student will be assigned with the weights added for their special needs. And then that will be given out to every student in the state. And then if you want to spend more than what that provides, then you would have a supplemental amount that you could vote in your school district, a new district with new lines. So that's what we have before the governor and the Senate right now. And to go beyond that is, we just don't know what they're going to do. So our focus has really been on affordability. And so we're looking at a better way to do the property tax relief so that you know in the year that you vote your budget what your property tax relief would be. And we're also looking at increasing the child tax credit, which we now have. It's for children who are age 5 and younger, and we've proposed to bump that up to children 6 and younger. And we also, there's something called the Earned Income Tax Credit, and that would be for people who are kind of not earning a lot of income, that they would have more relief in their taxes. And another thing we're looking at is for Social Security. There's a certain level of exemption for Social Security, income tax on Social Security, and we are looking at bumping that up by $5,000, whether it's a married filing singly or married filing jointly. And then we're also looking at at least raising the cap $5,000, or maybe eliminating entirely taxation on military pensions. That is both to encourage more military, more people to join the Guard, and also to incentivize those who have had 20 years serving to remain in Vermont, because often they're in their 40s and then they'd be great for the workforce. So those are some of the things that we're working on there, and it's very much up in the air at this point.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the governance piece, is that by reducing the number of districts, that doesn't necessarily mean changing the schools. There's, I think, consensus in the Statehouse that our overhead is too high, that 119 superintendents is too many, or how many there are, and that we can more efficiently run our school system by consolidating districts. There will be, I think there's also generally consensus that we want to have smaller community elementary schools, but potentially, so this is looking at equal education access for students. And so when you start looking at middle school and high school, making sure that all of our students have the same opportunities, and sometimes that's going to mean consolidating middle or high schools in order to provide more opportunities. We have some surprisingly very small schools around the state, high schools with 20 graduating seniors, that kind of number, where I think it's appropriate to question whether or not those students are getting the same educational opportunity as students in larger schools.
As timekeeper, want to let you know that we've agreed as a group to wind up the whole meeting in about 2 minutes, so want to give you the heads up there.
Great. Thanks. I'll make a final thing, which is if you have questions, comments, please reach out to me. Or I'll stay after too if anybody has questions, but you can, email is a great way to reach out to me, and if you just Google it or go to the legislative page, you'll find it. Also, everything happening at the Statehouse is very accessible from your home on your computer. There's YouTube channels for every committee and the full House and Senate. It's also on the YouTube channel for 3 years. You can look at agendas. You go to a committee that you're interested in, you can look at the reports. I mean, on the committee, that's what we use to get all of our information and to see testimony and to read reports. So you can have access to all of that information.
Same goes for me. Our addresses are on that website. It's Vermont Legislature. And please let us know if you have questions or input.
Thank you both so much, Abby Duke and Carol Ode. Appreciate you folks for being here. And I know, Abby, you get here as often, you both get here as often as you can, but it's busy over there in Montpelier, so appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you being here tonight. And like they said, definitely reach out if you have other questions or ideas. Motion to adjourn. Wait, when's our next meeting? Our next meeting is May 28th. The fourth Wednesday of the month. Be careful because there's 5 Wednesdays in April, so enjoy the Wednesday evening next week. Okay, now, motion to adjourn. Seconded. Thank you all.